When one considers the threat that the Great Devourer poses to mankind, it is easy to focus on the more simple attributes. Scale, for one. The Tyranids simply cannot be considered with finite arithmetic. While we are sure their numbers are that finite, we do not have any reference of scale that could be at all useful or constructive. The gargantuan size of Leviathan, or any of the Hive fleets for that matter, is able to wipe well-defended Imperial worlds clean and leave chapters of the Emperor's own Astartes in ruin. Furthermore, it does not help one's ability to sleep to know that there are many in the Ordo Xenos who believe these Hive fleets are mere scouting parties, simply seeing if our galaxy is worth the effort of a far larger force. Their diversity is another. The number of different Tyranid bioforms is as seemingly endless as their numbers as a whole, each subspecies specifically crafted to its required role, an army able to change as the conditions of the very battlefield they fight on changes too. Does your planet's PDF have a surplus access to heavy autocannon ammunition? Then, after a few iterations of enemies, you may find your heavy rounds deflecting off newly formed outer layers of biological armor, rendering your main strategic advantage null. And of course, the hive mind, a single consciousness controlling the unending tide of claws, teeth, and chitin to a single focused goal. No other race in the galaxy can boast of such unity. The Tyranid does not fear insubordination or cowardice. It does not have to play in politics. It is not slowed by bureaucracy and corruption. It must only eat. However, this is not an account of the primary strength of the Tyranids. I will in due time make a report of the many strengths and few weaknesses on the bulk of the Great Devourer. Instead, I would like to discuss their far more subtle form of attack, one of betrayal, infiltration, assassination, and sabotage. Know now that this is my account of the Genestealer Cult, and what I believe is a wickedly sinister consequence of the Imperium of Man's greatest weakness. To begin, we must first understand the cult's namesake. Genestealers have a roughly humanoid silhouette. They are bipedal, yet have 4 arm-like limbs, a thickly muscled tail, and a characteristically bulbous head. Their entire body, like all Tyranid bioforms, is covered in a thick chitin exoskeleton that has proven itself resistant against small arms fire. Its tail seems to allow the Xenos to reach great speeds when running with the aid of its additional limbs, and keeps it balanced when navigating difficult terrain. Its 2 foremost arms end with claws sharp enough to penetrate Terminator armor, and the impressive muscle-to-weight ratio allows the Genestealer to strike hard and fast. They have, unsurprisingly, earned a reputation for brutally effective close-quarters combat, and all too often have even the Adeptus Astartes found themselves bested by the Xenos. Their physiology appears to be suited to fast shock assault, and it is not uncommon to see them deployed on the battlefield as part of a larger force. Although there are none in the Imperium who can claim to understand the reasoning of the hive mind, parallels can be drawn, and one can conclude that when the Genestealers are deployed traditionally, they are used as an elite spear tip, weakening the defences in preparation for the less developed masses to surge through. However, the Genestealer's primary use is not on the battlefield, but as a vanguard for the hive fleets. Where most of the Tyranid bioforms known to the Imperium will remain on hive ships awaiting a full planetary invasion, Genestealers will be sent out, usually infiltrating space hulks or the other transports of other species. Because of this, Genestealers are insidiously patient, and will do anything in their power to remain undetected and move closer to new potential hunting grounds. This will often involve letting Imperial crewmen pass by unharmed, or perhaps even following them, searching for passage onto another vessel. To assist with this long-term infiltration, Genestealers have tremendous longevity, and also the ability to endure long periods without nourishment. A Genestealer may also enter a torpid state at will, lowering its metabolic rate dramatically, therefore allowing them to survive long periods of inactivity and hardship until new prey enters their lair. To achieve this advanced form of high function, the Genestealer must be able to plan and act independently of the hive mind. When most Tyranid bioforms become separated from the hive mind, they often reduce to animalistic beasts, driven by instinct. In fact, in the Imperium's large borders, there are animals found on exotic worlds that were believed to be once part of the Tyranid's hive mind, but have become so separated and for so long that they can no longer contribute to the joint consciousness. This is not the case for the Genestealer, which, like the other Tyranid infiltrators, can operate outside of the hive mind's synaptic web. It is unclear how Genestealers were first deployed in this manner. However, they have been found at all corners of the galaxy, and there is evidence that they have been there since well before the large hive fleets first entered the Milky Way. At some unfortunate point, a salvage crew or exploratory team will investigate a spacehawk contaminated with Genestealers, and will unknowingly bring the Xenos onto a populated Imperial world. Whether the Genestealer will attack and use these first contacts will depend on that Genestealer's own decision making. However, it is not uncommon for a Genestealer to first infiltrate the world itself, going deep into a hive city's sewer system and awaiting its first victim. When a suitable victim has been found, the Genestealer will use its psychic abilities to hypnotize the victim, creating a psychic connection that allows the Xenos to control them. At this point, the victim will become a part of the Genestealer's brood mind, and although they will retain aspects of their own personality, they will be completely enthralled to the original Genestealer, which now becomes the cult's Patriarch. The Xenos will use its long, whip-like tongue as an ovipositor, and infect the host with its DNA. If multiple Genestealers infiltrate a world together, it will be the first to infect a host who will become the cult's Patriarch. The infected host will then form back into society, undetected by their peers. When they reproduce with other members of their species, they will further spread their Patriarch's DNA, and the resultant offspring will be the first of the Genestealer hybrids. The cult spreads like a cancer, undetected by the wider Imperial society, as they slowly grow in power and influence. Here, the Patriarch is as patient as it was when first infiltrating the planet, keeping the cult undetected by not overextending its reach, consolidating all new forms of assets before expanding further. The cult may start with a handful of miners, each inconspicuously filing damage reports on their heavy mining lasers, a cover to allow the cult to begin its stockpile of weapons. The Imperium has harsh punishments for damaging equipment, but these are of no concern to the cult. Slowly, as more powerful members are indoctrinated, larger forms of hardware can be subtly requisitioned. One may ask how a Lehman Russ battle tank can be stolen without alerting the Imperium. But when the lead armourer and local auditor of the Departamento Munitorum are loyal to your cause, a tank can be taken as easily as anything. Decades of preparation go by, the cult longing for the day when they are saved and can ascend into the arms of the galaxy's true rulers, which of course is the day a Tyranid hive fleet enters the system, perhaps after receiving psychic messages from the Patriarch that this world is ready for consumption. At this point, the localized broodmind will fully connect with the in-system hive fleet and join the invasion. Loyal Imperials will attempt to organize a defense, only to find the cult is many steps ahead. Fuel, ammunition, and their respective supply lines are left destroyed and burned by saboteurs, making creative use of old mining explosives and stolen artillery charges. Loyal, experienced, and level-headed commanders are left butchered in their nightwear by their trusted household staff. Large, ground-to-orbit guns are left out of calibration and impossible to aim. Only after hours of work by maintenance teams can the weapons be operated, by which time the spores of the hive fleet are already falling. Even the planet's home defense fleet is left scuttled in the orbital docks. Just when it could not look more hopeless for the defenders, distant sirens sound as attacks begin long before the hive ships have reached the inner system. Alien-human hybrids have emerged en masse, supported by well-armed and organised traitors from the PDF. Tanks whose serial numbers were mysteriously absent from the quarterly ledgers decades ago have reappeared, tainted by Xenos livery, and charging towards any and all Imperials in the area. Close air support called to destroy the abominations turns its bombs onto loyal defenders also. Set in such panic and confusion, many of the Emperor's own will attack their true allies in cruel irony. Once the greater hive mind has decided the cult has fulfilled its purpose, the local psychic brood mind is severed in an instant. All pure strain Tyranids revert to being under the full control of the hive mind, and the cultists can finally see the fell truth. Some of them may still be convinced in their so-called holy cause, and for them, their illusions die with them. For the Tyranids, all flesh is the same. The original host victims, the ones who first succumbed to the Genestealer's kiss, or contagi, are the first members of the cult. They are fully controlled by the Patriarch through the brood mind, and can further spread the Genestealer DNA on their own. They will almost fully resemble their uncontaminated peers, if not for the loss of their hair and slight blue pallor to their skin, which is often excused as sickness if they are ever questioned. It is this likeness that makes them excellent infiltrators, and they will often take advantage of pre-existing connections and experiences to further gain influence for the cult. Minors will start taking on extra shifts, impressing their superiors to the point where they are given additional responsibilities, an advantage they will use to benefit the cult. Household cleaning staff will befriend and indoctrinate the caterers, who will then go on to taint the personal bodyguard of a commanding official. When the cult reveals itself, Contagii will take up arms and fight with more valour and purpose than could ever have been mustered when fighting for the Emperor. Their human minds, bodies and hands make them suited to operating the stolen war gear the cult would have accumulated over the years of preparation. Although the Contagii are the physically weakest members of the cult, they are the cult's connection to the very society it is purposed with infiltrating. They are responsible for building the cult to a dangerous size, and they offer the most tactical dexterity on a world built for and by humans. They are the wolf in sheep's clothing, and should be feared just as much as any Xenos abomination. It is the Contagii who spawned the first generation of hybrids. These monstrosities appear far closer to the Patriarch than to its Contagii parents. Sharing the iconic bulbous head and multiple limbs of the Tyrannid, these beasts often serve as the cult acolytes. These acolytes will remain hidden and close to the Patriarch. They will choose their targets wisely and cannot kill with impunity, as, through the broodmind, they are aware of the consequences of their actions and understand the cult is vulnerable in its early stages. They will lurk in the darkness near the Patriarch's lair, waiting as a spider would, for prey to stray too far from safety. Although these first-generation hybrids appear as almost completely Xenos as the Genestealer itself, they do retain faint echoes from their parents' minds, allowing them to use basic Imperial tools and weapons. It is not uncommon for one to see acolyte hybrids charging into battle armed with industrial tools, causing havoc to flesh and armour alike. At this point, I will ask you to give time to my own interpretation. It also appears that other, very human traits have been inherited to these Xenos mutants. Acolytes are known to carry hand flamers using one of their many limbs, and it appears that the weapon is chosen for its ability to cause suffering. One would assume that the spawn of the Tyrannids will make any and all decisions to best benefit the galaxy-spanning balance sheets of biomass expended to biomass gained. Every atrocity that the Great Devourer has committed has been in the name of consumption and nothing more. Of course, other weapons are often used by these mutants, and it is entirely possible the sadistic pleasure they receive from causing pain to humans is in fact intentional, the broodmind's equivalent of throwing a dog a bone for good behaviour. Which is more terrifying? Our own nature filtering through a Xenos consciousness larger than our entire galaxy, or that very same consciousness using our emotions to make us more efficient in its plans. I'll let you decide. My point is that while every member of the cult is under the control of the Patriarch through the broodmind, there are human emotions in these mutants. This first generation will then infect a new host victim, who will become contaminated, join the cult, and later sire more young. These will then become the second generation of hybrids. As before, they will still appear unmistakably Tyrannid, but some facial features may be inherited from their gene parents. It is also possible for this generation to learn Low Gothic. The process is repeated, with each new generation looking more human than the last. The fourth generation, often called, and excuse my pronunciation, Primarchy, can almost pass entirely for humans. They are dispersed back into society, just as the Contagii do, and make excellent operatives for the cult. To the rest of the world, they will work hard to be above suspicion. However, when they are with their brood family, they will prepare for all-out war. Almost paradoxically, the fifth generation will always be a pure strain Genestealer. This fifth generation can offer immense close combat power for when the cult emerges and starts its full-scale rebellion. But first, many of these fifth generation Genestealers will be sent out at opportunistic moments, so the cycle can be started anew, in a different hive city, or perhaps even another world entirely. When a pure strain Genestealer then infects a host in a different city or world, a second brood cycle is formed that is still under the direct control of the original Patriarch. Cult operatives will make this a top priority and will be willing to take risks to force opportunities off-world. Genestealer cults appear to have a common hierarchy, one that is based on generations and cycles of Xenos infection. A fully matured cult can be billions strong and can span over multiple worlds, a kingdom that has a single monarch at its head, the Patriarch. After first infiltrating the planet, finding a suitable victim, and then infecting them, the original Genestealer will become the Patriarch of a new cult. The moment their DNA has been passed to the host, a strange alchemical process takes place, and the Genestealer grows larger and more potent. Its body bulks out, making it even faster and stronger. Its claws lengthen to the size of sabers, and its outer layers of chitin thicken even further. The creature's mind develops too. While at first its base instincts allow it to survive, infiltrate, and reproduce, eventually, however, the Genestealer's uncanny ability to enthrall its prey burgeons into a suite of telepathic abilities that can bind a person to its service with just a flicker of its cold, inhuman eyes, and so the broodmind is created. Those caught in the psychic thrall of the Xenos will worship it unconditionally, seeing the Patriarch as a being sent from the heavens, physical proof that one day they will ascend and bring the galaxy to a state of glorious equilibrium. Although the exact details of beliefs will vary from cult to cult, or perhaps even between brood cycles, some things remain constant. The Patriarch is the divine leader, and their world must be made ready for their holy ascension. As the cult grows, confrontation from the rest of society becomes more likely, and if required, the cult may choose to reveal itself early, to attempt to overthrow the world before all the preparations have been made, or to harm the defences enough to allow for an easy victory of the High Fleets. However, this is often not the best course of action, and the Patriarch, patient as ever, will want to allow the cult to grow, unharassed by the Imperium, until it is ready. For this, non-violent alternatives are required, so the Patriarch may assign a Magus. The Colts Magus will generally be a 4th generation hybrid, and an exceptionally gifted psyker. He will serve as the cult's primary enforcer, propagandist, and diplomat to those outside of the cult. Should the cult find itself under the inspection of planetary officials, the Magus will use his honeyed words, and in combination with a subtle psychic suggestion, to convince said officials to stop planned campaigns against the cult. The Magus may even take the opportunity to further expand the cult's influence by indoctrinating imperial rulers without them knowing, greatly increasing the cult's power. In a cult of billions strong, it is the role of the Magus to provide spiritual guidance. They will spread the cult's holy message and, when the time of the uprising begins, will unleash their full psychic potential on the imperial defenders. In the same way the Magus leads the cult spiritually, the Primus will lead them violently. A 3rd or 4th generation hybrid, with a rare confidence only found in a few, the Primus strides through the fires of war with the surety of an apex predator, leading the cult's forces against the most stalwart and key defensive positions. The Primus leads from the front, able to command large portions of the cult's forces personally, inspiring his gene fellows with exceptional martial prowess. Such a key member of the cult is spared no expenses, and is normally equipped with the best stolen weapons and armour the cult has acquired. A Primus may be equipped with a sword made from the very biomaterial of the Patriarch's throne, a powerful symbol of the Father's trust, and also a potent weapon, as the so-called Bone Sword is semi-sentient, and can generate a psychic surge of energy, multiplying the danger of the blade's monomolecular edge. The threat of Genestealer cults have not gone unnoticed by the Inquisition or the High Lords of Terror. Even the former, the seriously better informed of these organisations, are not aware of the full scale of the problem. They must be considered as a plague, even when the Inquisition is in good form and can root out a cult before it is fully revolted. Plans are found in the blood and ichor-stained war rooms of the cult Primus. Plans of escape vectors, you see. Transports of pilgrims to a shrine world to the galactic north. Exports of tank chassis headed east to an industrial world, and 12 other routine off-world shipments, each marked with a simple spiral rune. Transports that left the planet months ago, each containing at least one pure strain Genestealer being sent out across the galaxy. The Inquisitor can make best haste, calling in favours from the Navy, Guard, maybe even the shadowy operatives of the Officio Assassinorum will be called into service. Unimaginably expensive movement of assets in an attempt to stop the spread of the taint. The Imperial Navy will destroy hundreds of innocent convoys to stop a single Genestealer moving to a settled world. The Guard will sack an entire world marked with an escape vector, destroying every spaceport on the planet side so that nothing could ever leave. The lone Vindicare will wait at the logistics depot, executing any worker unfortunate enough to have lost their hair or spent too much time away from natural light. And what will they achieve? They may stop a few Xenos making planetfall, or might even catch a cult early enough to stop it reproducing. But 14 escape vectors were plotted. By this time, half of those vectors will have matured into a full cult on a distant world, who will itself start birthing pure strain Genestealers and exporting them across the galaxy. The Inquisition cannot be expected to catch smoke with its bare hands. So how does the Imperium react? The High Lords could pass an immediate law. All the vessels are to be subjugated to thorough bio-inspection before breaking orbit. Firstly, even a direct order from Terra would take years to make its way through the Imperium, and the High Lords would have no way of knowing if it is being properly enforced. Secondly, even modestly sized Imperial worlds could have hundreds of transports coming and going every solar day. These are worlds that have no food production whatsoever, so even a delay of one day would result in mass starvation. Perhaps even regular screening of workers, random searches for weapon hoards and other contraband. Humanity has grown to trillions, maybe more. Testing every mine worker for taint would quickly lead to a shortage of everything that must be mined. The overwhelming scale of the Imperium's bureaucracy is what is allowing these cults to thrive. The Imperium is too slow to act to new threats, and is very preoccupied with existing ones. Guerrilla activity is most effective and easiest to achieve when fighting a large preoccupied force, of which the Imperium certainly fits the bill. So while we prepare our fleets to face off against the dreadful hive ships of Kraken, or if we bolster a world with Adeptus Astartes to repel an invasion force, know that deep within our own borders, we are being eaten alive by a cancer that we rip and pull at with no effect. Know that for every victory we may win against the Great Devourer, they will always have a deep, knotting foothold in our very foundations.